Welcome back to Up in the Air. I'm Meredith Fish.
And I'm JP Nicola.
This week has been quite active with the sleet on Tuesday and another storm Thursday night.
Yeah, and with February being the fourth coldest month in State College's record, it doesn't seem like March.
Definitely not. Hopefully by the end of the month we will be seeing a slight warm-up.
Yes, and that's what we can hope for. Moving on to tonight's show, we have a lot to cover.
We will be covering new fog research, cities and skyscrapers, and insight into the soybean and natural gas market.
For now, this is Update in the Air. Over the past 20 years, researchers have determined that precipitation and temperature variations have suppressed the U.S. average soybean yield gain by around 30%, which has contributed to an industry-wide loss of $11 billion nationwide. The Ohio State study found that for every 1.8 degrees Fahrenheit rise in temperature during the growing season, soybean yields fell by about 2.4%. Economic losses have been felt all across the Midwest, with the state of Missouri leading the way with an estimated loss of $5 billion over the past 20 years. Co-author of the study, Laura Lindsay, says that if strategies aren't developed to mitigate the weather variability, it could have long-term effects on the soybean industry, trade policy, and consumer food prices, as well as the economy.
A recent study in the Proceedings of the National Academy of Sciences contributed climate change as the reason for the historic drought in Syria to induce the long-running civil war. Although Dr. Colin Kelly from the University of California, Santa Barbara did not suggest that this drought alone caused the current conflict, he said that it had a catalytic-like effect and played on the vulnerability. Their study showed that since 1900, that area has undergone a warming of 1 to 1.2 degrees centigrade, followed with a 10% reduction in wet season precipitation. Kelly was hoping this paper would generate long-term thinking on these kinds of issues, especially in areas already vulnerable to civil wars.
Are thunderstorms more likely in urban areas? A study done by a geography doctoral student at Northern Illinois University found that Atlanta is 5% more likely to initiate a thunderstorm than the surrounding rural areas. Alex Haberly incorporated 17 years worth of data in a computer model to find these patterns. Some factors that contribute to this pattern are cities being hotter than surrounding areas, along with the tall buildings acting as barriers to provide added upward wind motion, which helps develop thunderstorms. This research cannot, however, be generalized for every city, especially ones that are close to large bodies of water. Regardless, research like this could help city managers plan for bigger influxes of water and develop better strategies to deal with flooding.
We first covered the Global Precipitation Measurement Corps Observatory last year during the launch of this satellite. Well, now the GPM Corps Observatory has produced its first global map of rainfall and snowfall. Using a network of 12 satellites, the map covers allows scientists to see how rain and snowstorms move around nearly the entire planet. This is a major step in providing the scientific community comprehensive and consistent measurements of precipitation. The first data set spans the initial months of the GPM from April to September 2014, with precipitation covering 87% of the globe. The GPM observations will also help advance scientists' understanding of snowfall, which may improve climate and weather forecast models, which currently have a limited representation. This data will also be able to contribute to climate models, providing the long-term outlook of changing precipitation patterns.
Scientists at Kansas State University say that 25% of the world's wheat production will be lost to extreme weather if no adaptive measures are taken. The research concluded that global wheat yields are likely to decrease by 6% for each degree Celsius of temperature rise. It was found that the effects of climate change on wheat will be more severe than once projected and are happening sooner than expected. This poses a problem for the ever-rising global food demand. Rising temperatures are problematic, but it is the more so the cold and hot extremities that are more detrimental to crops. Researchers are using growth chambers and heat tents to quantify the effect of temperature. This work will ultimately lead to the development of more robust models that can help farmers globally select more weather-tolerant wheat varieties based on their location.
When warm air contacts a cool surface and saturation occurs, it is called fog. It reduces visibility and is typically hard to monitor, even with current satellite and in-situ monitors. A new study in the Bulletin of the American Meteorological Society suggested a practical solution to fog detection using the cellular networks already in place around the world. Cellular communication is often affected by fog and other atmospheric phenomenon. Thus, the scientists from Tel Aviv University hope to use the current microwave links to monitor fog. Higher frequencies for wider bandwidth are highly sensitive to fog and will provide high-resolution observations of fog in real time. Although practiced in Tel Aviv, more testing will be needed to make sure calculations are consistent with observations. That's all for Update in the Air this week. Up in the Air will be back in a moment with more.
Hope you enjoyed this week's Update in the Air.
Last week, the Weather Risk Management class at Penn State started showcasing and explaining the natural gas and soybean market.
This week, Tom Gowan and Rob Mitzsteifer will give us the current update into these market commodities.
Hello, and welcome to the natural gas and soybean market analysis portion of Up in the Air for the week of March 1st. My name is Rob Mitzsteifer, and I will be providing the soybean analysis.
And my name is Tom Gowan, and I will be giving the natural gas market analysis. Weather has a direct effect on both these industries, so we hope to provide you with some weather-related insight into how the soybean and natural gas market will move in the near future. Now Rob will take it away with the soybean segment of this market analysis.
This time of year, the growing season is well underway in South America. Both Brazil and Argentina have begun their soybean harvest, with Brazil leading at around 30% complete, while Argentina has just begun. Market projections put this year's South American soybean yield at record numbers, indicating the potential for a large supply flooding the market. However, demand for soybeans has been increasing dramatically, largely led by the Chinese. So the question remains, is the large bean supply going to be met with equally large demand? We'll have to wait and see. The growing popularity of soybeans is thanks to its high protein content, especially when compared to wheat or corn. Livestock feed based in soy meal gives much more bang for your buck, and thus more farmers have been switching. Looking at recent prices, May contracts of soybean meal futures are up about 6% since early February. There are a few reasons for this, including the strong demand I mentioned earlier. Last week, a trucker strike in Brazil has slowed down bean exports as truckers who are demanding a lower gas tax have blocked the major highways connecting the growing regions to the ports. This has put some pressure on the market and will continue to do so until the strike is resolved. Also, the Chinese New Year was last week, and with China as a major player back in the market this week, more volume is expected. As far as weather goes, this past month has been wet in Argentina and mixed in Brazil. The latest global forecast system model is predicting warm and wet conditions in Argentina and cool and seasonable in Brazil in the short term, which overall is okay for soybean growing and harvest. And now here's Tom with the natural gas segment.
From late January until about February 23rd, natural gas prices had been on the rise. This was due largely in part to the persistent trough over the eastern half of the nation that ushered in cold shot after cold shot. Many cities in the northeastern U.S. record their coldest February on record this year. This extreme cold led to high demand for natural gas and therefore caused prices to rise dramatically. These two graphs show the 30-day mean temperature and 30-day mean temperature anomaly across the continental United States. It is evident that the northeastern U.S. experienced the coldest temperatures compared to normal out of anywhere in the continental United States. The storage report that was released on Thursday, February 26, showed that 219 billion cubic feet of natural gas were withdrawn during the week of February 13th to the 20th across the lower 48. Therefore, there are currently 1,938 billion cubic feet of natural gas in storage, which is now lower than the 5-year average of 1,968 billion cubic feet. It appears that the main cause of falling prices since the 23rd of February has been due to the long-term forecast of moderating temperatures across the northeastern U.S. The GFS indicates that there are signs that the stubborn trough will finally begin to ease its grip on the northeast and thus give us a break from the cold temperatures. With this outlook, I think it is safe to say that prices will continue to fall for at least the next week or two.
Well, there you have it. This week's market analysis. Let's hope those cold temperatures do retreat, huh, Tom?
Yep, I agree, Rob. Let's enjoy these last week of classes before spring break.
For Up in the Air, I'm Rob Mitzsteifer.
And I'm Tom Gowan.
Thanks for tuning back in.
Hunter Williams is standing by at our climate wall to give us the 8 to 14-day outlook.
Take it away, Hunter.
Thank you, JP and Meredith. Now, it's no secret to anybody that this past February here in State College has been a chilly one, but how does it stack up to Februaries of past? As you can see here, a mean temperature of 17.5 degrees for this past month is the coldest February on record here in State College, but we weren't the only place getting in on the record-breaking temperatures. For the city of Chicago, a mean temperature of 14.6 degrees is tied with the year of 1875 for the coldest February on record in that city. And for Boston, the snow made the headlines, but don't forget about the cold for this past month. The mean temperature of 19 degrees is the second coldest February on record for the city of Boston. But as we get into March, what is the snow depth looking like? We are seeing half of the country, or over half of the country, covered in snow at the moment, even some unusual suspects in parts of North Alabama and North Georgia, but really plenty of snow to go around, and I'm sure a lot of people could go for some warmer temperatures right about now, and it looks like through the next 8 to 14 days, some people could have that, but slightly below normal temperatures likely through parts of New England, but for just about everybody else in the East, the above normal temperatures here, so I'm sure everybody will be enjoying that. Now, the focal point of these above average temperatures through parts of the upper Midwest, Chicago, Minneapolis, enjoying the warmer temperatures after some very chilly days over the past couple of weeks here. Now, as we shift our attention out west, slightly below normal temperatures likely through parts of extreme southern Texas, but as we push through parts of Arizona up through California, up the coastline towards Washington, the above normal temperatures are likely in these areas. But moving on to the precipitation, above normal precipitation likely through parts of the deep south, but below normal precipitation likely for parts of New England here. I'm sure some of these places could take a break from the snow right about now, but moving out west, a bit of a different setup than we've seen the past couple of weeks here. Above normal precipitation likely through parts of New Mexico, Arizona, stretching up through Utah and northern and north central California. Now, we'd like to see that green shading get a little further southward into some of those more drought-stricken areas, but needless to say, the rain will be appreciated in some of these spots out west that are dealing with the drought. Once again, I'm Hunter Williams. Back to JP and Meredith.
Thanks, Hunter. I can't believe that this is the coldest February in State College history.
For sure. But that's all we have for this week. Next week, we won't be having an episode due to our spring break, but we'll be back in 2 weeks.
As always, thanks for joining us this week, and thank you to the Penn State students for contributing to the show.
Tune in 2 weeks to catch another episode. But for now, I'm JP Nicola.
And I'm Meredith Fish. See you next time, Up in the Air.